memory care. So, Melissa, you can tell us more about yourself, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So, I'm Melissa Long, the Director of Education Support at Insight Memory Care Center. I've been working with older adults for over 20 years. My background is a recreational therapist, and I've worked in multiple settings: community, paratransit, hospital, assisted livings. So, I've seen all the different phases of life that older adults go through as they age. And so today I really want to talk about the importance of socialization when aging. And one of the really important things to think about with it is that COVID really opened our eyes to what happens when you don't socialize. So let's look at this. First, for our mission, I'm at Insight Memory Care, and we provide specialized care, support, and education for individuals in all stages of memory or cognitive impairment and their partners and community. Our vision, a community where those living with memory or cognitive impairment and their care partners can achieve the highest quality of life. We're a leader in dementia care in Northern Virginia. Insight's a nonprofit started in 1984 that supports families on their dementia journey. We provide care that has specialized adult day programs for people in all stages of their journey. We connect by building relationships and supporting care partners in their journey. And with creativity, our dementia experts share their knowledge and resources because every journey is unique. So there's nothing wrong with older adults maintaining their independence, but it's important to recognize that benefits of socializing for older adults and the hazards of neglecting this can have social aspects, neglect their social aspect of senior living. So nearly 3 in 10 American seniors live alone, and according to the National Institute on Aging, at nearly 13.8 million people. So why is socialization important? Sorry. Yes. Okay. So as seniors get older, their risk of isolation increases. To prevent the negative effects of loneliness and isolation in seniors, it's especially important for seniors and their loved ones to be proactive about staying engaged throughout the day. So people are inherently social, and this may seem obvious and self-evident, but a growing amount of research confirms that the social aspect of human life, according to Dr. Craig Shawchuk of the Mayo Clinic, we are social animals by nature, and we tend to function better when we are in a community setting being around others. Unfortunately, seniors are more likely to isolate or experience loneliness than the rest of our population. A study by the UCSF Division of Geriatrics found that 43% of seniors regularly experience loneliness. There was actually a study done by AARP right before COVID that showed that if you have prolonged isolation, it's equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So just to kind of give you a visual of how much it damages your body. And we saw that with COVID, where people were living in independent livings and when there's been continuing care communities. With the isolation, their cognition started to drop. And so we saw people in the independent living apartments go all the way to memory care within 9 months because of isolation. Because at least in the assisted livings and in the memory cares, they were still engaging with activities, even if they were one-on-ones, where independent living, they expected people to do that on their own. And someone may have just started seeing some cognitive decline and not having that support. And so then the isolation just made it worse. And so those are some of the things that came about with COVID. So the health hazards of being isolated, senior isolation affects nearly every aspect of their lives. On top of the effects on mood and mental health, isolation often leads to physical deterioration. And in a study from the National Academy of Sciences, lonely and isolated seniors showed higher rates of poor physical and mental health. So individuals with limited social lives are more likely to suffer from hypertension, coronary artery disease, cardiac failure, depression, anxiety, and Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. So we find if you don't have a routine and a schedule and you're isolating, the other piece that ties in with dementia is not getting your glasses clean and at the right prescription, also not wearing hearing aids. I know there was a side conversation about that prior to me presenting. And it's really important to make sure your senses are working as good as they can. And that's by using devices, whether it's glasses or hearing aids, that's going to help you to maintain where you're at longer and have your independence and not affect your cognition. Risk factors of social isolation with seniors. According to the National Center for Biotechnology Information, seniors have an increased risk of perceived loneliness and social isolation when compared to the rest of the US population. Factors that increase this risk for seniors includes being over 80, chronic health conditions, limited contact with friends and family, and a lack of resources. And it's not that we don't have resources out there, it's people don't know where to find them because there's so many. You know, when you look at Northern Virginia, we have over 500 home health care agencies alone. And which one do you pick? Which one's good? It's overwhelming, whether it's someone who can make the decision or their caregiver. And so making sure that we help each other and know what those resources are for all the different things that we can do can really be a game changer for people. It's important to understand the potential health risks for seniors who are susceptible to social isolation. On April 29th, 2001, the CDC published a study by the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine concluded that social isolation significantly increased a person's risk of premature death from all causes. These risks may rival those of smoking, obesity, physical inactivity, especially with older adults. So who is at higher risk in the older adult population? Immigrant LGBTQ plus people are at the highest risk for isolation. So current research suggests that immigrant, lesbian, gay, bisexual populations experience loneliness more often than other groups. Latino immigrants, for example, have fewer social ties and lower levels of social integration than US-born Latinos. First-generation immigrants experience stressors that can increase their social isolation, such as language barriers, differences in community, family dynamics, and new relationships that lack depth or history, the report states. And similarly, gay, lesbian, and bisexual populations tend to have more loneliness than other heterosexual peers because of stigma, discrimination, and barriers to care. The report highlights loneliness among vulnerable older adults, including immigrants, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender populations, minorities, and victims of elder abuse. It also points out that the literature base for these populations is sparse and more research is needed to determine the risks, impacts, and appropriate actions needed. So for example, with the LGBTQ plus community, there's an organization called SAGE for older adults that provides resources for care, networking, but there's a program they do called Sage Tables, and Insight hosts at least 4 of those a year in different areas. We have one in July. I've already had 2 this year. We'll have another one in the fall. But what it is both allies and individuals from the LGBTQ plus community get together for a meal, have conversation, and the goal is to be able to expand their network, their group of people, their support, because their group can already be small, and as you age, it gets even smaller. And so we want to make sure that everyone knows that they have a team around them that loves them, and we can have open, safe conversations. So that's just one way that we meet that need, making sure we're getting to those marginalized communities for our immigrants and providing literature that they can understand regarding dementia and aging, and providing the resources like memory screenings in their native language, so that we can do that, but also being very aware of the cultural nuances. We find with a lot of cultures, they see dementia as a psych diagnosis, and you don't talk about that. You don't talk about psych issues in certain cultures. And so letting them know that it's a neurocognitive disorder, it's not a psych issue, and that it's not a normal part of aging, because you hear that a lot from some cultures, that this is something that you need support. You can't do this alone. You can't isolate in your home with this diagnosis or as a caregiver and not get support. And so providing that education and the tools to be able to get through this journey is really key. When we look at health risks of loneliness, although it's hard to measure social isolation and loneliness precisely, there is strong evidence that many adults aged 50 and older are socially isolated or lonely in ways that put their health at risk. So recent studies found that social isolation significantly increased a person's risk of premature death from all causes, a risk that may revival of smoking, obesity, and physical inactivity. Social isolation was associated with about 50% of increased risk of dementia, and poor social relationships characterized by social isolation or loneliness was associated with 29% increased risk of heart disease and 32% increase for strokes. Loneliness was associated with higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide. And older adults have the highest suicide rate in the country. That's something that's not talked about. It is a problem. I just did a presentation on last week because it's Mental Health Month. And I've been talking about it for 3 years, trying to get the word out there that this is a huge problem that's not being dealt with and addressed. Loneliness among heart failure patients was associated with nearly 4 times increased risk of death and 68% increased risk of hospitalization, 57% increased risk of emergency department visits. So, obstacles to senior socialization. The most reported difficulties seniors face when combating social isolation include physical ailments, loss of a spouse or a loved one, isolation or mobility problems. I have a wheelchair, so I can't get in someone's car. So what do? I stay at home. So figuring out those barriers. Real or perceived cognitive decline. So sometimes we can say, oh, I went into the room, I couldn't remember what I was getting, left, and 5 minutes later I did. That's normal aging. That's not a cognitive decline. If you don't know what the item's for, or you never remember to go back for what it was, that's different. And sometimes some of this cognitive decline you're seeing is just mild cognitive impairment, which is the diagnosis before dementia. And anyone at any age can have mild cognitive impairment, and that can be from depression, anxiety, low vitamin B6, 12, and D. These things are fixable, they are treatable. And so we can reverse this temporary mild cognitive impairment. Also, it's important to know if you go to the doctor and they say, Mrs. Smith, you have mild cognitive impairment, I want you to say, from what? And why I say that is because if it is from something that's fixable, like a vitamin B12 supplement, versus they say to you it's from Alzheimer's disease, that's different. If it's something that's fixable or you have it, only 10 to 15% of people with mild cognitive impairment actually get dementia. So I don't want people to be afraid of being told that they have mild cognitive impairment. I want them to advocate for themselves and ask why and see if it's something they can work with. And it's also the perfect time for you to go, okay, they are telling me that it's brought on because they can see that I have Alzheimer's, but it hasn't gotten to that level yet. What can I do for myself? Getting my legal paperwork together, making sure I have a plan in place of who's going to take care of me when things change. Can I eat healthier, have a better schedule, get involved with insight so that I can slow the decline down? Can I get a part of research studies? Knowing sooner is a good thing. It can allow you to be prepared. It can allow you to have a longer quality of life that you want to have by doing all the things that can help slow down the process. Having less availability of family members to assist with social activities. So if you know that you can't drive anymore, how do I get to these things? How do I go to all these things? How do I engage with people? So older adults and their families face various challenges. Some may be harder to overcome than others, and it's important to work to reduce these obstacles as much as you can. Otherwise, it'll be more difficult to cultivate a social life that delivers many benefits. And I think what's really important to see here is that it says families. Family doesn't mean blood necessarily, because some people don't have children. Some people aren't connected with their blood family due to dynamics that were unforeseen. And so what does your family look like? Is it a group of friends you've had for 20 years? Is it your church family? What does that look like? And being able to build that network around yourself is really important. And looking at what some barriers could be, and how we get around that. Maybe more of our family is distant, farther away, but there's things they can do. They can schedule doctor's appointments for you. They could send in a grocery order for you. They can meet with you on YouTube or on Zoom and do YouTube trivia or something with you. So there's ways to do things from a distance. You just kind of have to think outside the box sometimes for those. Without intervention, these things can quickly develop into a vicious cycle that is difficult to escape. And it's important to get involved early on before any of the above obstacles become rooted in our senior loved ones' lives. So unfortunately, it's never too late. There's always a positive way to intervene, no matter how far the problem has progressed. And that could be, we don't know how to communicate. A lot of times we deal with the barrier of someone has the diagnosis. There may be a behavioral variant with the dementia where they get angry very easily because they get overstimulated, and the family gets upset thinking this person's just being mean to them. That's not the case. It's the disease. And so we have to not take things personally, try and figure out what's overstimulating them so that we can prevent that from happening. And the other thing could be is that someone's telling these elaborate stories with their dementia and us not correcting them. We need to meet them where they're at. And so we as caregivers and family need to learn how to work and communicate with someone with the diagnosis so that we don't trigger behaviors or change the trajectory of quality of life for them. The mental health benefits of socializing as a senior, psychology and mental health has received increasing attention in the past decades, especially as it relates to health overall. Seniors represent a particularly vulnerable population when it comes to mental health concerns. According to the Lancet, depression has an especially serious impact on seniors with ongoing medical conditions. Depression has been shown to worsen disability, increase the severity of chronic illness, raise mortality rates, and cause suffering for seniors and their families. Fortunately, socialization has been shown to be one of the most effective ways for seniors to improve their mental health. According to the American Public Health Association, socialization improves your mood, your cognition, your memory, recall, and is associated with healthy behaviors, including exercising, connecting with family and friends through technology. Exercise, games like bingo and cards, and other activities have a profound effect on mental health of seniors. So 5 worthwhile benefits of socializing. So socializing and the meaningful connection it creates has many more benefits than getting you out of the house or keeping your brain stimulated. Though the benefits can be overstated, experts have proven that socialization among older adults not only keeps the brain sharp, but it can even decrease the risk of developing dementia. In addition to the cognitive health benefits, socialization provides important life enriching psychological benefits as well, such as improved mental health. Many aging adults are at risk of being isolated, which is one of the leading causes of depression among seniors. Isolation and loneliness can elicit feelings of despair and worthlessness. Socialization combats these depressive situations and allows people to feel loved and valued. The people we interact with and the activities we do in society affirm our sense of worth. When you spend time with others, you not only avoid isolation, but you also have plenty of opportunities to keep a healthy mental state and positive outlook. There's a sense of belonging. Feeling like we belong somewhere is just as important during our senior years as it was during our adolescence. It's important to know that we have people whom we can turn to share life's up and downs, especially for those who may have lost a close friend or a spouse. The need to belong could feel more intense. Socializing with other people can cultivate new friendships and lasting bonds as you participate in meaningful life events together. So, easy thing with all the chaos in our world right now that we have. One thing that I have noticed is people now taking the time in the grocery store and having a random conversation. I had someone, we were in the cheese section, and she started talking to me. And it was so nice just to have that. I feel in a lot of ways we've lost that because we're so busy, so many things going on in technology. And we've all found we just have to kind of lean on each other through all these changes. And so I think taking more moments to connect with people really does have an impact. And it can be as simple as being in the grocery store and having a conversation and acknowledging someone. So I think we need to look at doing more things like that. It's not always about the scheduled, planned things and having that sense of belonging and having communication. We want to increase our self-esteem. It is common for self-esteem to dwindle as we experience the difficulties of aging. When we feel embarrassed or frustrated with ourselves, when we have trouble doing as much as we used to. However, the more we socialize and join in activities with other people, the more we benefit from feeling as though we still contribute to our communities. Positive interactions of any kind help us feel more confident in ourselves as we learn to recognize the important traits and talents that don't despair with age. Accountability. We need people to make us accountable. Accountability about taking care of ourselves and each other. We need others to hold us accountable at some point in our lives. For aging adults, their social circles can act as accountability partners to ensure they continue to take care of themselves. If we keep to ourselves, it is easy to slip into bad habits of declining self-care. Socializing, on the other hand, gives us reasons to keep up with self-care and prioritize our personal health. So if we're not going to, let's say a mahjong group every week, it's a lot easier to stay in our pajamas and skip the shower. And that starts to add up after a while. And it makes us more depressed because we're not doing those things. So really important. If you don't show up to mahjong, someone should give you a call and say, Sue, why weren't you there? You know, build that network of people. We all have those moments where we don't feel good and we need to take the time to not do something. But we want to make sure we have a fail-safe plan where we have friends that are going to check in and make sure why we weren't there. So it's really good to set that up. We want a purposeful living. When we have somewhere to go, something important to do, and people to see, it helps us feel like our lives have purpose. A robust social life can help us get up in the morning with excitement and anticipation for what lies ahead. The strong connections we have with others create meaning in our life, giving us a greater sense of fulfillment just by being close to each other. Spending quality time with those we care about reminds us that life is worthwhile. And even if that is writing letters to soldiers and mailing them out, you don't have to go somewhere for that. Going to a volunteer job somewhere, whatever that might be, finding that purpose for still being around. Everyone, no matter what age they are, has something to contribute, whether that's to your friends, your family, or the community. And figuring out what something might be, and no matter how small it is, being able to do some kind of contribution so that you can see the value. How to promote socialization with older adults. So as people get older, there's a natural tendency to get less active. Over time, you can settle into inactive routines and grow increasingly sedentary. For many seniors, it is easier to watch TV alone than go out with friends or enroll in that exercise program. Older adults need to be proactive about their activity levels or their health will deteriorate. Here's some ideas and opportunities to increase your socialization as you age. So seniors are the fastest growing age demographic in America, and as a result of increased longevity and better quality healthcare, fortunately, as more adults reach retirement age, there's an increasing amount of social activities available. From technology-focused connections to outings and happy hours, there are plenty of options for seniors to choose from. Social activities that improve our mental health may include exercise classes and walking groups. And there's a great program on our website under self-paced learning, under education, from the Arthritis Foundation. It's an 8-week walking program. Anyone can do it for free that lives in Virginia. And it tells you every single trail in the state of Virginia that you can utilize to do that. So that's an easy go-to for that. Happy hours and group outings, regular phone calls and video conferences with friends and family. I think that's one gift COVID gave us. It taught us how to use technology to be able to do things. I have a group of friends I played online games with when COVID happened, and we're still doing it today, 5 years later, every Saturday night. So we've used that to our advantage. Playing bingo or mahjong or any other kind of group game, doing card games, billiards, darts, and other parlor games, swimming and water aerobics classes, which are great for your muscle tone, which is something you do lose as you age. So it's a great exercise for that. And going to support groups. Support groups present great opportunities for seniors to connect with people that share a common interest or health concern. And in general, support groups focus on a particular health concern or situation. And most are started or hosted by someone that has been affected by the condition or situation. The format of the support group varies depending on the subject, the location, and can be a number of sizes and styles. So for instance, at Insight, if you're a caregiver for someone that's going through this journey, we have over 20 support groups, and we actually have an in-person support group for people with mild cognitive impairment themselves, so they can talk to each other about what it's like to have the diagnosis. Older adults can get following benefits from support groups. It can reduce their isolation, give them emotional support with difficult situations, actionable advice from experts and experienced peers, promotes meaningful connections and relationships, and encourages healthy coping skills and behaviors. To find a socially active community near you, there are many options out there. And for millions of older adults living alone, living in a socially active life can be an uphill battle. Additionally, locations can be huge obstacles in forming meaningful connections and staying active. More seniors are choosing to live in retirement communities for the social programming, opportunities for exercise, and the close-knit community feeling they can't get at home. Connect with a senior lifestyle community near you to find out more about these options. But we also have things like you guys, Village to Village, where you're finding ways to do that, still living in your homes, which is a great thing as well. And so definitely worth looking at the other options. And I think a lot of people are going in all different directions now. That the big continuing care communities were a real push before. And I think people are looking at other options now outside of that. For many older adults, continued socialization doesn't happen on its own. We will look at 6 ways that seniors can cultivate a healthy social life. Loved ones can help by ensuring that older adults have adequate transportation, whether from them or community partners that are out there. So we want to build and maintain positive relationships with grandchildren, and whether that's near or far, doing story time through Zoom if it's a distance thing, or going to their sporting events if it's local. Do volunteer work. This has the added benefit of keeping us busy and engaging us during retirement. It also gives us cognitive exercises as well. And you have lots of options, whether it's helping with something in parks to teaching a class for the Ollie senior college program. There's all sorts of options out there. Take advantage of community resources such as senior centers and religious organizations. Move to a retirement community. Many offer 1-bedroom apartments and reasonable rates that still provide access to full schedules of activities and socialization opportunities. Organize social activities on your own. It includes seniors who might be experiencing isolation or loneliness, such as a book club or an art class. And you can do this by reserving space at your local library. Those rooms aren't used enough. And so, you can decide to do a knitting group at the library or at your church, whatever that might be. Be the person that makes that change so that there aren't people isolated. Help maintain a sense of purpose by caring for a pet, church attendance, or the pursuit of hobbies and interests. The Journals of Gerontology, Series B Psychological Sciences and Social Services published a study in 2019, and researchers asked 300 adults aged 65 and older to record their activities and social encounters every 3 hours for a week. They also wore activity trackers to monitor their movement, and they found that people who have more variety in their social interactions spent less time being sedentary. The reason? The scientists suggested that while older adults may be more sedentary when they're with their closest friends and family, for instance, watching TV together or lounging at home, they need to leave the house to engage with other people to be more active. So what can you do if you're experiencing loneliness? Your doctor can assess you for a risk of loneliness and social isolation and get you connected with community resources for help. If needed, the following national organizations are out there to give support. You have AARP, the Area Agency on Aging. So you have your AAA of Arlington or any of the area cities and counties. The National Council on Aging, they provide community programs and services, and the places that find what senior programs are available to assist in healthy aging and finance security. And then National Institute on Aging provides materials on social isolation and loneliness for older adults. You can do the geriatric depression scale. You can find that right online to kind of monitor yourself and see where you're at. This is something the doctor can also do, but I think it's really important to kind of keep yourself in tune. And, if you had a hobby you really like to do, something that I noticed with me during COVID was all of a sudden I realized I wasn't reading, and I'm an avid reader. And I realized I was slumping down because I was isolated. I was getting depressed, and I wasn't doing something that was important to me. And so if you know something's important to you and you start to see it slip away, I think that's a really good sign that something might be going on and it's worth getting help. And we need to know it's okay to, speak with a therapist and have counseling. That's not a bad thing, and sometimes that doesn't work enough and we need medication, and that's okay too. We all want to be the healthiest person that we can be. And we know that as we age, we start to see all the things that are changing and not happening anymore. And that can be overwhelming on top of all the things going on in our community and our government, and all those things don't help either. So it's really, really important that we keep in tune with that. And if we don't know if we can watch ourselves, keeping an eye on our friends, and they'll keep an eye on us to say, hey, you're not going to church as much. Is everything okay? Is there something I can help with? And just kind of being each other's eyes and ears. So this is the end. Upcoming events at Insight. We do a lot of stuff online. You can go to our calendar on insightmcc.org/events or scan that QR code. For instance, this evening, we have a presentation from the VA. We cannot record it. They do not allow it. And we also have one next Wednesday from them on all the benefits you can get either as a care partner or as someone with dementia with the VA for benefits. So that's on at 7 o'clock. You can sign up on our calendar and get the Zoom link. Tomorrow night, we're doing research studies on frontal temporal lobe, which is what Bruce Willis has. So we have lots of different things going on you can sign up for. We also have things in person. Now I'm going to open it up for questions.
Okay, and we've got quite a variety of them. And the
All right.
first one, are there any studies which indicate that there's a difference between introverts and extroverts?
There is not.
Oh,
And so it's a really great topic to bring up. But I think even being an introvert, there's still things you will do to engage yourself. It's just not in a way someone an extrovert. So for instance, extroverts do really, really well in those continuing care communities, where introverts usually do better in small group homes, things like that. And so your engaging is different, but you know you, and kind of figuring out what that piece looks like. Everyone says to me, "Oh, you're an extrovert." I'm right on the line. So I do really great in these type of environments and being out there and sharing, but my battery by the end of the day is completely empty, and I just want to be left alone for a few hours to reboot. And that's very much an introvert side, personality effects. So kind of knowing yourself and figuring out what your engagement looks like for your personality.
okay. And Steve has kindly posted the Insight Memory Care URL, address, and phone number in the chat.
Thank you.
So if people want to go and harvest that before we close, it would be a really good idea. Then there's a question. You mentioned that not having a routine can impact dementia. What
Yes.
do you mean by routine? Does getting
Yeah.
up and going to bed at the same time every day count? Or does it include more like going to the book club on Tuesday, line dancing on
Yeah.
Wednesday, and stuff like that?
It's a combination of both of that. So waking up at the same time, having breakfast at the same time. People with dementia thrive off of having routine because it can get embedded into in the earlier stages into their long-term memory, making basically a core memory for them. So then it becomes rote. So as they progress, they're used to doing it. Obviously, in the middle and late stages, we can't teach something new. So if you're changing the schedule, then they might get agitated because it's not what their brain's used to doing. But it's less thinking when you have a schedule, have it written out. You're going to do this at 9 and this at 10 and this at 11. There's less open-ended thinking to do, abstract thinking, where it's right there and it's set. Because I want you to think about you and I can be up for 16, 18 hours and do different things, where someone with dementia, their brain works 3 times harder than ours. And so when 8 hours are over, they're done, they're maxed out. And so if we can take away some of those challenges and that abstract thinking throughout the day, it can make the day go smoother. And then a lot of people hear about sundowning, those afternoon behaviors. That's because the brain is tired. And so we want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can not to exhaust it.
Okay, then is there a local or national organization that provides support for older immigrants and their families?
I would have to look that up. I know there's a lot of local nonprofits that do different pieces with that. But I can get back to you guys with that information.
Okay, and then Steve says Insight Memory Care Center is a nonprofit
Mhm.
providing quality memory and cognitive care for families living with dementia. And actually, it looks like a quote that's harvested from the website. So I think I'll let people discover that because it
Mhm.
basically talks about all the services
Yeah.
that can be provided. And then there's a question, how important is socializing with people of all ages rather than just with other seniors? Is there a grandkid bump in cognition?
I think they doing multi-generational things are great because it gives you a sense of purpose because you're helping someone younger, whether that's making cookies with them to telling them about what it was like for you being in elementary school, whatever that might look like. But that's that sense of purpose and engaging. They also make you laugh and you have fun, and everyone needs to have humor in their life to relax. And humor is great for people who are feeling isolated and lonely. So I think it's a great addition to engage that way.
Okay, and do you think that cultural changes in society contribute to social loneliness greater these days? Overall, we're more engaged in digital life and economic pressures and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, that I have someone I engage with who went from being a lawyer to doing embroidery. And she always says, put down your phones and learn a new hobby, um, and get away from the technology. And it's true, we need to. We need to disengage from technology and do other things. And so figuring what that is, like doing a knitting club at the library or going to an embroidery group or, going fishing with some guys, walking around a lake, going and having a slice of pizza together and just talking, whatever that looks like. But we do need to disengage from technology more because it also, especially right now, is really traumatizing a lot of people with all the false information out there. And it's really causing a lot more stress and anxiety for people. So I think stepping away from that stuff, it's great for some things, but we don't want to do everything that way.
Okay, and then socializing is wonderful, but is downtime important too, so that one doesn't feel overwhelmed?
100%. So we always want to rest our brains. So we're constantly working them and we're working those neurons. And we want to be able to let those neurons rebuild and regenerate. And to do that, we do need to rest as well. So finding that balance, and balance can be hard. Deciding, okay, I need to do these things and I like to say yes all the time, but I need to say no once in a while because I need to take care of me and do something for myself. So for example, yesterday, I stepped away from work and went for a hike and then went home and sat in my garden and was reading until my dog saw me through the balcony and totally ruined that moment. But they're like, no, we want mommy. But I took that time because I knew I was working 3 nights in a row, that I needed to give myself some downtime so that I could take care of me. And so we definitely have to find that balance.
Can you post the link to the website that has all of the Virginia trails on it?
Yes. Yep.
And also, will the slides be available after this presentation?
So they are recording it so everyone can rewatch the recording, but we don't
Ah,
share our slides.
okay.
Um,
And then someone says, don't forget open mics. I go to one that has people aged 15 to 80, and it's one of the few places where there's intergenerational schmoozing.
That's amazing. I love that. That's a great, great thing. I would love to know where that is.
Cafe Amore, Vienna, Virginia.
Okay. Very cool. All right. I'm
Okay.
going to the link for the walking thing here.
Lovely,
So,
thank you. And
yeah.
then someone says, I just went online to learn more about the Aging Master Program you mentioned.
Uh-huh.
It appears that the National Council on Aging isn't offering it anymore. Do you know if another group has picked it up?
The educate so Ollie George Mason does it. If that's the same thing they're talking about.
Okay, Walk with Ease of the National Arthritis Foundation is where the trails are.
Yep, I just put the link in.
Ah, lovely, thank you.
Yeah. So on the
Okay,
link I gave you, if you scroll down, the third one is the Walk with Ease program. The one above it, if you're a caregiver with someone with dementia or know someone is, this is a great free online learning course that we did with the Marshall Washington group with self-care for yourself as a caregiver. So,
okay, and then um, Steve mentions there are two older adult book clubs via Arlington Public Library.
perfect. And actually, it's a good segue. So I wanted to share with you guys. Let me stop sharing so you can see my screen. So we have a published book called Caregiving at a Glance. It's a fingertip guide for caregivers. Our 6th edition just came out. Our 5th edition is in all the Arlington libraries. I'm going to get this delivered with the new edition, but you can also go on our website and I'll put the link where you can actually put a request in and we'll mail you a free copy of the book because we've gotten some grants recently. And you're more than welcome to get a book. I have a lot of people tell me they put it on their nightstand. So when things change through the journey, they can refer back to it to answer some questions. But that is a great book.
Can you
to
repeat the
share.
title of the book or hold it up?
Caregiving at a Glance.
Caregiving at a Glance. Okay, and the management wants me to mention that ANV has a Page Turner's book group. So let's see. And then Cheryl asks, what are the requirements, i.e., age, time, commitment, etc., for individuals to participate in Insight memory care activities?
Yeah, so depends on the activity. So we do memory cafes throughout the Northern Virginia area. Those are 1 hour. You can go on our website and look that up. And it's usually for someone with some type of cognitive impairment, and then also their caregiver, but you can come by yourself if you're newly diagnosed. And that's just an hour, and you can do a fun social activity and meet other people going through the journey. If it's our early stage program called Reconnection, so it's someone with a mild cognitive impairment or early stage dementia, that is a commitment of 1 time a week, and it's from 10 to 3. And there's a fee for that one. We only have fees for a couple of programs. Everything else is free. But for that one, you do 10 to 3 with people who have the diagnosis of dementia with you. It can be any age as long as you have the diagnosis. We've had people in their 40s engage in our programs. So you at least have to do 1 day a week with that. You can do up to 4. And then the day center, that's someone who's in the later early stages to mid and late stage, and you need clinical help, medication support, help toileting, all that kind of stuff. And that is a 2 day a week commitment minimum. And we're open from 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday for that. So that's that program. Education classes, support groups, there's no restriction for any of that. I did put the link in. It's the first one I put in, Steve, about the Virginia walking, if you scroll down on the page.
Okay, I didn't see that either, so let me.
Right above his comment, there's 2 links for me. One says education
Oh,
resources, self-paced learning.
Oh, okay, that's the one. Okay.
Yep, so you click on that and scroll. There's 3 self-paced. One is caregiver, and underneath is the arthritis one. The other one is about ERs.
And Melissa, I just wanted to ask 2 things because I can remember interviewing your colleague Lindsay about this, the Memory Care Center. 2 things. First of all, you do not have to necessarily be a resident of Virginia to.
No,
Is
we
that
have people
correct?
from Maryland that come to our program.
Right.
And all of our online stuff, I have people from all over the country and even the world. I did a program last month and had someone from Canada and someone from Ireland on. So there's no restriction of residency at all for our programs.
Right. And the other thing is that if I remember correctly, you also have a support group for caregivers as well.
We have over 20.
Yeah, because I think that's important. It's not only just for the person who has memory issues, but it also, there are support groups for the caregivers as well.
We
And-
only have one support group for someone with the diagnosis. The rest are for all caregivers. And we do education. So when you look at, we have a diagram for Insight where it's a circle, and 1/3 is the individual with the diagnosis, and 2/3 is all the education support for the caregiver.
Right,
So
okay.
if you go on our webpage and really circle around and look at it, there's so many options out there. We have a dance class in Fairfax every single Thursday from 11 to 11:45 for brain health dancing that you can go to free of charge. We partnered with Service Source with that. In our Sterling location, we're doing an improv class that's free of charge. We have the Sentimental Journey Singers program every Wednesday here in Fairfax. So there's lots of things that you can do for socialization aspect as well. And you don't have to have dementia to engage in those.
Okay, and this
Right.
question may have been answered in the previous one, but I'll read it just in case there's more. If someone gets an initial diagnosis of dementia, what are the first steps they should take? What can Insight Care do for them?
Yeah. So we actually have a diagnosis checklist on our website that goes through kind of the main steps you can do. Let me go to it now. Send you the checklist for that. But basically what it does is, learn about the diagnosis, learn about IADLs that you can do in advance, like figuring out finances and legal paperwork. So you can look through those, Steve. So if you click on this link here,
It's not, Steve, it's not listed under Virginia Trails. You have to go to Arthritis.
click on this link I just put in there, Steve.
Yeah.
And I want you to scroll down below care for you, mind and body. And on the right side of the screen, it says walk with ease. And that's what you're going to click on.
Okay, and I had a question that has to do with, I've got a friend whose husband was diagnosed with dementia and she's his caregiver, and now
Right.
she's diagnosed with dementia.
Right.
You know, what can she do because she's experiencing some disturbing stuff,
Yeah.
and she's also taking care of him.
Yeah. So the big question is, what is their network around them? Do they have other people? Because I'm sure if she had the legal paperwork done, she's his power of attorney. Well, who is his if she isn't available? And they need to start getting involved. And
Mhm.
so having that conversation. Also talking to your AAA, your aging program in Arlington, and getting a case manager. Everyone who has Medicare can have a case manager that can help with that stuff as well. There's resources for that. So you can call Medicare and get set up with that, and they can get resources to you for those different pieces.
My experience lately with calling Medicare is 40 minutes on being swapped from person to person, and each one has a different idea of what the policy is today, but come back next week and they may have a new policy.
Um, so there's actually a form they should be telling you to fill out.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
And I should add that everyone I've talked to at Medicare is a lovely, wonderful person. They're just not enough of them.
Yeah.
Melissa, I know you're looking online for the form. Are there also care managers in our community that someone should be hooking up with? And is there a way to identify which care managers are particularly good with
Yeah.
dementia versus other
So
things?
there are aging life care managers. And all right, I'm gonna put the link. I just found the Medicare thing. So and they are available if someone can afford them. They're usually between 160, 180 an hour. They don't bill a full hour. If they can bill in 6 to 10 minute increments, and you can manage what you let them do for you. They're a great option if you don't have a lot of people around you and you need someone to advocate for you if you end up in the hospital, even if you just are signed up for that piece and you do the other stuff. I was looking up actually for you guys yesterday in Arlington County for someone else, and you guys don't have a county-based care management where Fairfax and Loudoun County do. Maybe that's something you guys advocate for in your county. So it can be on a sliding scale for those that can't afford the care manager. So that's why I suggested Medicare to you guys for that. So the big thing on this page is it's saying is ask your healthcare provider to sign you up for the chronic care management services. So that's the faster way than dealing with Medicare for that. So yeah, that would be, I mean, you can go with someone private if you can afford it. If not, I would go the route with your PCP suggesting you to Medicare for that.
So what's Medicare actually going to, I mean, is Medicare going to provide somebody, or is Medicare just going to give you the opportunity to pay for someone that
No,
you
so
find?
they give you a chronic care management, includes a comprehensive care plan that lists your health problems, goals, other providers, medications, community services that you need, and other information about health, 24/7 access to urgent care, support when you go from one healthcare setting to another, reviewing your medications and how you take them, and help with other chronic care needs.
What if
So
you
they
don't
actually
have,
give you, they assign someone to you.
Yep.
what if you don't have power of attorney and the person doesn't think they're demented?
So it may not be that they don't think they're demented. It could be anagnosia, which means they can't recognize that they have dementia. And that's a symptom of the disease with some people. So Wendy Williams is a great example of that. She has anagnosia, though no one in the news is saying that. And that's why they're having so many issues. So sometimes you have to pull in guardianship for that and get a lawyer involved and go to court for that piece. Or the other part is you have to wait till they get to a point where they're not in that stage And then the POA can fall into place. You can also, if you if you do have a POA, but you can't get them to acknowledge it to let it go into place, if you get 2 letters from 2 different physicians in the state of Virginia, you can then take over for that. But if the POA paperwork, so I say the minute symptoms start, you need to make sure that legal paperwork is done. Because if it's not done in enough time and someone goes into an office and isn't presenting as confused because of the time of day you take them, they could be a lot more coherent, or it could be the type of dementia they has that they don't look like they have dementia, then you can't get the paperwork signed. And so that becomes an issue. So, those are all, that's why I tell people to get that stuff done early. And even before you have the diagnosis, if possible. I have found more and more lawyers don't have their paperwork done. Who's Wendy in the news? Wendy Williams is she's a talk show host and an actress who got diagnosed with frontal temporal lobe like Bruce Willis. And there's been a lot of issues with her saying she's in prison at an assisted living she's in, and people in the news are buying into it. And saying that she got forced in there and that she should be let go, but people don't know her medical history, and she was diagnosed with frontal temporal lobe. So there's a lot of anagnosia there and not the greatest information coming out to the community for people to understand the disease. So.
Okay, and
You're welcome, Connie.
that's all the questions.
All right. Well, please know that you can reach out to me anytime. I will stick my email in here. We do free consults. So if someone has questions, like Liz, if your friends have questions with her diagnosis and taking care of him, they're more than welcome to call me and reach out or email me, and I can talk to people offline.
Okay. Well, so Liz, no more questions? I can't see anything else here in the
No more questions.
tally. So, okay, well, we've got 2 minutes before 11 o'clock. So Melissa, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Absolutely. You guys have a wonderful day.